It's not hard to feel depressed when covering the politics of immigration in Britain, but not much gets me more down than the success the Tories have had in using asylum seekers as a wedge to divide working people. That was on full display in this Jeremy Vine show debate between commentators Carol Malone and Chris Bambridge.
They are not entitled to live in four-star hotels and live a life of virtual luxury. And please don't say they're not luxurious.
No one is living in a four-star hotel.
No one. Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No
yes,
one
they
is
are.
living
I've
in a
actually written
four-star
about
hotel.
I'm sorry, but they are. And you can keep repeating that, but it's a lie.
Anyone is entitled to decent accommodation.
They've got decent accommodation.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Even
they
the
have.
oil worker who commented they lived there when it was only one to a room said it wasn't
They're
decent
not
accommodation.
entitled to luxury. They're entitled to
This is
humane
not luxury.
conditions.
Okay.
It is.
Now, we're going to come back to more of that clip in a moment. There's someone who sort of calls in. It's very interesting. First of all, though, I do really want to take a moment to debunk what Carol Malone said there. She said, it is a luxury. It's a luxury that these people are living in, or the conditions they're living in are luxurious. Carol Malone did say one true thing there. She has written about the issue of asylum seekers in hotels. That doesn't necessarily give her expertise, but she has. In July, she wrote a story in The Express with this headline, "Free cigs for migrants, nothing for Britain's homeless. How is that right?" Carol Malone. Now, that headline, I think, is the definition of divide and rule. In the piece, she wrote this: "What's inhumane is that while we're busting a gut and paying for economic migrants to live here with free board and lodging, 24-hour access to doctors and nurses, free travel into towns and cities. This week, migrants were being ferried into towns around Essex to buy cigarettes with taxpayers' cash. We have 271,000 homeless people in this country who get absolutely nothing. They're left to fend for themselves while those coming here illegally, many having dumped their papers before getting here, are getting each and every little thing they need." So that's Carol saying, or Carol Malone, saying asylum seekers get each and every little thing they need. Now, is that really true? I didn't believe it when I read it, but let's look at some evidence. I spoke, obviously, on a recent show about the experience of a man I knew going through the asylum system and how completely awful it was. He was certainly not getting each and everything he needed, very far from it. Something more social scientific, though. Let's go to the organisation Migrant Voice. They've put together a report based on extensive interviews with asylum seekers currently living in hotels. They report this: poor quality food, described by many as almost inedible and smelling rancid, coupled with a lack of facilities and money to enable them to prepare anything for themselves, has left many with exacerbated physical and mental health problems. Cramped accommodation and a lack of privacy over extended periods of time has increased the difficulties facing many of the asylum seekers to whom we have spoken. Some have had to share rooms with up to 10 others from different backgrounds and cultures, all with differing habits, sleep patterns, and personal needs. These issues are further compounded by the lack of adequate toilet and washing facilities. One asylum seeker told us how there was only one shower, which he shared with residents from at least 2 floors. Another reported 24 people sharing one communal toilet on a different floor. A significant concern raised, which goes against reported Home Office statements regarding the standard and luxuriousness of the hotels used, is staff behaviour. Asylum seekers have reported being subjected to verbal abuse, racist comments, and threats in some hotels. Now, one, this shows you that these conditions are not luxurious, which anyone will know if they've ever spoken to someone trying to claim asylum in this country. What makes me really depressed, though, is that point about staff behaviour. And I'm sure that the reason staff behaviour can be appalling in these types of places is not because, the staff are inherently racist and evil, right? But you're in a society which is telling everyone, these asylum seekers don't deserve to be here. These asylum seekers are stealing our jobs. They're taking money from homeless people here. And also, it's in the national interest for them to have a horrible time. That's essentially what Robert Jenrick is telling us every day. It's in the national interest for these migrants to have a horrible, miserable time because that will deter other people coming. Now, if you are working in that hotel and you're hearing that, day after day, minute after minute on stations like GB News or whatever, or on BBC when it's a Tory politician talking, then are you really going to be thinking, oh no, we should treat these people with more respect? You're proactively being told by the people paying you, by the way, the Home Secretary, that you should treat these people like dirt. And so is it a surprise that some of them do, right? Appalling. Let's go to some more of that report. It's all incredibly depressing. Issues accessing healthcare over and above those faced by the general population mean some asylum seekers in hotels are finding it difficult to find health, help and support. Uncooperative and at times actively obstructive behaviour by staff in hotels were reported by asylum seekers who needed support in obtaining medical treatment. These issues and the lengthy time many asylum seekers spend in hotels, with the vast majority of survey respondents having spent at least 6 months at their hotel, inevitably leads to many suffering mental health problems due to the repetitiveness, monotony, and lack of agency in their daily lives. Respondents to the survey expressed significant distress at their situation, and some shared that they were experiencing depression as a result. There have been significant reports of suicide attempts. Now remember, this is the situation that Carol Malone is saying is luxurious. She's saying this is luxurious. Now, should we ask her to put up with this? Do you think Carol Malone would live in these conditions, in these luxurious conditions? Surely if they were luxurious, she'd be perfectly happy to. It'd be good. Let's see if she'll do that. We'll do a reality TV show. Carol Malone lives in the luxurious conditions that migrants sent to this country, or migrants arriving in this country, are forced to live in. Of course, though this is awful, it's not actually the worst of what happens when asylum seekers are put up for months in low-quality accommodation. Late last year, a teenage boy was allegedly raped by a man in his 30s at a hotel used to house refugees in East London. Another alleged sexual assault against a child is said to have taken place at the same facility. The two incidents were alleged to have taken place within weeks of each other at a hotel where 150 children were reportedly squeezed in alongside 250 adults. Now, that is clearly not a safe environment. Last week, the BBC reported that investigations into child sexual abuse had been obstructed by asylum hotel staff. This story concerned allegations that a man had masturbated in front of a 7-year-old boy. The BBC report this. Officers were blocked from entering the East London hotel and staff delayed providing CCTV, which was later automatically deleted, it is claimed. The provider, Clear Springs, said it has robust safeguarding processes. The BBC has also learned of a reported unrelated sexual assault in another hotel. Families of asylum seekers are frequently housed in the same buildings as single men who are also waiting for their applications to be processed. The BBC has been told that on the 30th of June 2023, a 7-year-old girl and her mother were reported to have witnessed a 34-year-old man intentionally masturbating in their presence. It is claimed that staff and security obstructed the police investigation when officers visited the hotel around 3 weeks after the incident. The hotel is run by Clear Springs Ready Homes, which has a 10-year contract to manage asylum seeker accommodation in England and Wales. Now, that 10-year contract, I think, is quite significant, right? And this is the conflict of interest, or the system of disincentives, which I keep talking about, which is you've got these hotel companies who have these long-term, very lucrative contracts with the Home Office, but then the organization who is employing them, essentially, who's paying for their service, the Home Office, actively keeps implying that they want them to treat the people staying there like dirt, right? So you're saying, we're going to give you this long-term contract. What do you think happens when asylum seekers say to the Home Office, or someone on their behalf claims to the Home Office, look, they're getting terrible food, they're living in cramped conditions, there isn't the facilities for this to be hygienic, they're being treated in a racist way. What do you think is going to happen? The Home Office, good, right? That's what we're paying them to do. We're paying them to treat these people miserably, right? So this is the reality of the situation we're currently living in, and what Carol Malone says is a luxury. Of course, it's a disgrace that the state makes anyone, whatever their migration status, live in these conditions. But in the next part of the Jeremy Vine clip, we see that sadly, some people believe Carol Malone's lies.
Michelle in Dorset, can you see the barge from where you are?
No, I don't actually live. I live in Dorset, but I'm just discussing the fact that I've been homeless for 12 years. Got divorced.
Oh, no.
And this council, I've been left homeless. I've slept in a van. If somebody would have offered me offered me the opportunity to live in a barge with my children, I would have taken it.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have done.
Absolutely disgraceful.
So what's upsetting you is that people are refusing to go on the barge. Is that right?
There's no money. Yes, exactly. They don't. We have paid. I've been forced to live back with my elderly mother, which is fine. Well, it's not fine at all, actually, to be honest. But I'm in a situation where I don't have any alternative. There's no way that people can't even afford rents at the moment, because rents are absolutely astronomical. They don't earn enough to be able to get a mortgage. We've paid our national insurance, our tax, and they are giving our money. Dorset are giving our money away to other people. It's not on. It's not on. If you actually walk around Southbourne and Bournemouth and see the homeless people and the problem, and these people can't even get any help off the system.
So what's so depressing, right? We've just shown you the facts, right? We've just shown you that what Carol Malone written is untrue. These people are not living in luxury. But what you heard there was, a member of the public who seems to be having a very difficult time. I don't know if she read Carol Malone's article, right? I don't know if there's a causal relation here. But what you can see is someone who has completely bought this lie that the interests of the working class in Britain are opposed to working class asylum seekers arriving here, right? That completely, it was just encapsulated in that 60-second long clip, right? Let's watch the final part of it. You can imagine that Carol Malone was chomping at the bit to reinforce what the caller was saying.
Michelle, this is where the resentment among people, this country is not averse to migration at all, but this is where people become angry and resentful. When people like Michelle can't get a place to live, she's not looked after. Dorset councils are actually using some of the money they have to organise outings
Chris,
for these
final
people.
word.
Migrants are not responsible for low pay, for homelessness.
She never said any
They're not,
of that.
No,
You
I'm
keep
not saying she
this
has.
nonsense.
But
She
we
never
should be
did.
turning the real aim at this government, which has created these problems.
All right.
And also issues like rents in Dorset, where second homeowners are ramping them up.
Dahlia, how would you respond to that? I mean, my main response was to feel pretty goddamn sad just watching that whole debate and that phone call.
That's what they want. And it's very convenient to them because and by them I mean Conservatives, right-wing people who are responsible for creating the conditions that caller exists in or has existed in, it lets them off the hook. Because now suddenly it's not about austerity, it's not about their policy, it's not about the way the government has treated poor people in this country for the past 10 years. It's about people who are being displaced from around the world. It's because, they have the gall to, still be alive after crossing the channel and, needing basic sustenance to live. I mean, can you believe the audacity of needing food and needing to go outside? I mean, it's really taking the piss. Carol Malone in particular, this is someone who unfortunately has been a voice in British politics and British media for a very long time. And the cynicism and hypocrisy that this woman is displaying right now beggars belief, because 10 years ago, she was involved in the very same kind of rhetoric that she's engaging with now about the undeserving poor, but she was targeting it towards people who are British, many of whom are white, but are claiming benefits, who are on welfare, which, by the way, especially now, every single person in this country, any working class person, any lower middle class person, is one bad piece of luck away from having to be on welfare, to having to be on social security. But 10 years ago, Carol Malone was highly invested in the kind of politics that led to increased homelessness in this country, increased child poverty in this country as a result of austerity. And I just want to read out a little bit from an article that she wrote in 2013 in the height of the benefit scroungers moral panic. She said, and this was about people who appeared on that horribly exploitative show, Benefit Street. I can't remember exactly on which channel, but this was her review of that show. She said, living on benefits is a lifestyle choice for the Flishers, which is a family that appeared on that show, who don't want to work and are too stupid to stop having babies they can't afford and have no room for. But the tide is turning. Hardworking people are now angry about people like the Flishers. They're sick of having to slog all hours, not just to pay for their own kids' rent mortgage, but for scroungers like the Flishers as well, who with $25,000 a year are probably taking home more than they do. So the very playbook that she used against people like Michelle, who for whatever reason found herself in a really difficult position and needed social housing, or had children that she needed to take care of but couldn't afford to because of declining wages or whatever, unavailability of suitable work. Carol Malone is one of the people who created the conditions for the policies that removed social housing, that created the 2-child benefit cap, that it has created the disenfranchisement of working class people in this country. And now she's using that exact same playbook against refugees and asylum seekers. And the idea that she is feigning solidarity, feigning defense of the very people that she spoke of in this same dehumanizing way 10 years ago is outrageous to me. And the only reason she is feigning any solidarity for people in that position is so that she can beat people who are essentially in an even more vulnerable position than them. All I can hope is that British people have slightly longer memories than Carol Malone seems to have, and can connect the dots of the fact that the very same people who were doing up benefit scrounger moral panic 10 years ago are now doing the same thing against migrants and asylum seekers. And that fundamentally, when you support that politics of, again, deliberate cruelty and dysfunction, you are emboldening the tools that are then going to be used against you. And when the time comes, your whiteness and your citizenship status is not going to protect you from that politics of cruelty and that politics of scarcity.